The morning sun bathed the sleek cars in the dealership lot, their polished surfaces gleaming under the bright sky. Inside the glass-walled showroom of Reeve Automotive, salesmen stood ready, their sharp suits and carefully practiced smiles a staple of the business. Every movement, every handshake, and every offer was calculated to maximize profit. Among the customers browsing was a man who blended seamlessly into the crowd. His worn jeans, simple button-down shirt, and relaxed posture suggested he wasn't looking for anything flashy. His name, Daniel Reeve. What they didn't know was that he owned the entire dealership chain. Daniel had built Reeve Automotive from the ground up. Over the years, his dealership chain had expanded across multiple states, gaining a reputation for offering quality cars at fair prices. But as his company grew, so did the distance between him and the day-to-day operations. He had started hearing complaints, stories of pushy salesmen, unfair trade-in deals, and dishonest pricing. On paper, everything looked fine, but Daniel knew better. Numbers didn't tell the full story. People did so today. He had come undercover, not as a CEO, but as a customer. Not just to observe, but to experience firsthand how his employees treated people when they thought no one was watching. A salesman approached, flashing a confident grin. "Good morning, sir. Looking for something in particular?" Daniel smiled, playing his role. "Yeah, I'm in the market for something reliable. Maybe a used sedan, nothing too fancy." As he followed the salesman, his real attention was elsewhere. Then he heard it. "Please, isn't there anything else you can do?" A woman's trembling voice carried across the showroom. Daniel turned his head slightly. An elderly couple stood at the trade-in desk. The man was tall but slightly hunched with age, his silver hair neatly combed. His wife stood beside him, gripping his hand, her face creased with worry. Their car, a well-kept but older sedan, sat parked outside. Behind the counter stood Rick Larson, the dealership sales manager. "I'm sorry," Rick said with a practiced shrug. "This is the best I can do. That car isn't worth much. You're actually lucky I'm offering this much." The elderly woman wiped at her eyes. "But this car belonged to our son. He passed away last year. We kept it as long as we could, but we just can't afford the repairs anymore." Daniel's chest tightened. Rick sighed dramatically. "Listen, I understand this is emotional for you, but sentimental value doesn't add dollars to an appraisal. The market price is the market price. It's not just a car to us," the woman said, her lower lip quivering. "It's the last piece of him we have left." Rick remained unmoved. "The offer stands at $2,000. That's already generous considering the mileage and wear. If you want to move forward, we can do the paperwork right now. Otherwise," he gestured toward the exit. Daniel felt his blood pressure rise. He stepped forward. "Excuse me, what's going on here?" Rick turned, clearly annoyed. "Sir, this is a private discussion. I'm sorry to intrude, but I couldn't help overhearing. I'm actually in the market for a car myself, and that sedan caught my eye." The elderly couple looked at him in surprise while Rick's eyes narrowed. "It's not for sale. It's being traded in." Daniel rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "I might be interested in buying it directly. What's the trade-in value?" Rick hesitated. $2,000. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's it? For a car in that condition?" Rick's expression darkened. "It's an old model, and with that mileage, I'll offer $5,000. The room fell silent. The elderly couple gasped. "Oh no, we couldn't." Daniel held up a hand. "Let's talk outside." Outside, away from Rick's prying eyes, the couple shared their story. Their son had been a firefighter, a hero in their community. His car had been his pride and joy. After he passed away in the line of duty, they couldn't bear to part with it. But with medical bills piling up and their own health failing, they had no choice. Daniel nodded, taking it all in. "I'll buy the car from you, but not for trade-in." Harold's brow furrowed. "Then why?" Daniel smiled. "Because I don't want it to end up on a resale lot. I'll restore it, keep it in his memory." The woman's eyes welled with tears. "You would do that?" Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out his checkbook. "It's not just a car. It's a legacy." Rick stormed outside just as Daniel handed the couple the check. "You can't just..." Daniel turned to him, his expression unreadable. "We'll talk later, Rick. A long conversation about how you run things here." Rick froze, suddenly uneasy. Something about Daniel's tone sent a ripple of fear through him. The tension was thick as Daniel stood outside, the check for $5,000 still firm in his grip. Harold and Linda Carter looked at him as though he had just performed a miracle. "We don't know what to say," Harold murmured. No one's ever done something like this for us. Linda wiped at her tears. You don't even know us. Why would you do this? Daniel smiled warmly. Because some things are more important than money. Before he could say anything more, the glass doors slammed open. Rick Larson stormed out, his face red with anger. I need a word with you. Right now. Daniel exhaled slowly, slipping the check into Harold's hands. Go cash this. Drive your son's car home with pride. As they walked away, Rick's fury erupted. What the hell do you think you're doing? Daniel remained calm. Helping a customer. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Rick scoffed. That's not how this works. You just cost this dealership thousands of dollars, and you undermine my authority. Daniel arched an eyebrow. Authority? I didn't realize your job was to squeeze every last dime out of grieving parents. Rick's eyes flashed dangerously. Look, I don't know who you think you are, who I think I am. Daniel repeated, his voice suddenly steely cold and unmistakably commanding. He took a deliberate step forward. I own this dealership. The words landed like a bomb. Rick's face went slack. What? Daniel pulled a business card from his pocket, holding it up between two fingers. I'm Daniel Reeve, the CEO, the owner, the man who built this company. His voice was sharp as a knife. And I just watched you disrespect those customers, lie to them about their car's value, and act like this place is a scam operation. Silence. Every employee in earshot had frozen. Rick stammered. I didn't know. You didn't know who I was, so you thought it was okay? Daniel cut him off. That's what I find interesting. If I were just some random customer, you wouldn't have thought twice about taking advantage of those people. Rick broke into a nervous sweat. Listen, Daniel. Mr. Reeve, I was just doing my job, maximizing dealership profits. Isn't that what you want? Daniel's stomach curled in disgust. No, Rick. That's not what I want. Rick shifted uncomfortably. Sir, if we start making emotional deals, we'll go under. It's business. No, Daniel said, his voice ice. It's greed. Daniel turned to the gathering employees. How many of you have been taught to pressure your customers? There was an uneasy shuffling. No one spoke. How many of you have seen customers walk out of here feeling cheated? Again, no one spoke. But a few cast glances at Rick. A young salesman, Chris, according to his name tag, finally stepped forward. It happens a lot. His voice was cautious but honest. Rick encourages it. He tells us to always lowball trade-ins, even when we know the cars are worth more. Rick whipped around. Shut your mouth, Chris. Chris shrunk back, but Daniel held up a hand. No, Chris. Keep talking. The young man hesitated, then gathered his courage. We're told to push higher interest rates on people who don't ask questions, especially older customers or ones who don't seem financially smart. A lot of people here hate it, but we're afraid of losing our jobs. Rick turned pale. That's a lie. Daniel's eyes locked onto his. Is it? Rick's silence said everything. Daniel finally exhaled slowly. You're fired, Rick. Rick's head snapped up. What? Get your things and leave. Now. Rick opened his mouth to argue, but then he saw Daniel's expression. He knew there was no point. He let out a string of curses under his breath, yanking his jacket off the chair. Daniel turned to the staff. From now on, things change. Customers come first. Fair deals, honest pricing, and full transparency. Anyone who has a problem with that, walk out now. No one moved. Chris stepped forward. Thank you, sir. Daniel gave a small nod. Let's rebuild this place the right way. By noon, Daniel had gathered every employee in the staff lounge. I know what some of you are thinking, he began. You're wondering if this is just another corporate speech. Another, we're making changes talk that ends with nothing actually happening. Several employees exchanged glances. I'm here to tell you this time it's real. We're not just changing a few policies. We're changing the way we do business. Starting now. Chris leaned forward. So what does this mean for us? Daniel folded his arms. It means every single sale from now on will be transparent. No more hidden fees. No more forced add-ons. And no more preying on customers who don't know better. Tim, an older salesman, sighed. Sir, I agree with you. But some of us have families to feed. We've been making money the way we were trained to. If we suddenly stop, how do we survive? Daniel nodded thoughtfully. That's why I'm introducing a new commission system. From now on, bonuses will be based on customer satisfaction, not just sales volume. If you treat customers fairly, you'll still make money. In fact, you might even make more. A ripple of surprise moved through the employees. That's actually smart, Chris admitted, eyes wide. Daniel smiled. I know. It's almost like I've done this before. The room erupted in quiet laughter. Later that afternoon, Daniel called a mandatory customer service review meeting. He pulled up a file containing every complaint his corporate office had received about this dealership in the past year. One by one, he read real stories from customers who had been deceived, ignored, or pressured into deals they didn't understand. Point one review stood out. I came in for a used car and was offered a deal that seemed fair at first. But when I got home, I realized they had added a $1,500 extended warranty I never agreed to. I called back and the manager, Rick, told me it was non-refundable. I feel completely ripped off. Chris clenched his jaw. That's disgusting. Tim sighed, shaking his head. I remember that sale. She was a young mother. She didn't have a lot of money. Daniel's gaze was hard and unwavering. Then we're fixing it. He turned to his assistant. I want the list of every customer who was overcharged, misled, or treated unfairly. We're calling them back and making things right. Chris's eyes widened. You're serious? Daniel nodded. Dead serious. By late afternoon, Daniel was personally making phone calls. Hello, Mrs. Thomas. This is Daniel Reeve, the owner of Reeve Automotive. I just wanted to call and personally apologize for the way you were treated when you bought your car. The silence on the other end lasted a beat before the woman choked out a disbelieving laugh. Wait, you're the Daniel Reeve? You're calling me? Yes, ma'am. And I'd like to make things right. Daniel heard the emotion in her voice. This wasn't just about money. It was about rebuilding trust. As Daniel ended the last phone call, he leaned back in his chair, exhausted but satisfied. The dealership wasn't perfect. It was still healing, still learning. But today, for the first time in a long time, it felt like it was on the right path. Chris knocked on the office door, grinning. We just got 3 walk-ins asking if the rumors were true, if the owner was actually fixing bad deals. I think people are starting to notice. Daniel smiled. Good. Let's keep proving them right. The next morning, Reeve Automotive felt different. The air was lighter. Daniel arrived early, watching as employees filtered into the showroom, some looking determined, others still unsure. As they spoke, a familiar figure entered, Harold and Linda Carter. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, Daniel said warmly. I wasn't expecting to see you back so soon. Harold extended a hand. We wanted to thank you, not just for what you did for us, but for what you're doing here. Linda smiled softly. Word spreads fast in this town, Mr. Reeve. People are talking about how you stood up for us, how you fired that awful man and made things right. We're not the only ones who were mistreated. Just as Harold finished speaking, the glass doors swung open again. A young woman in her mid-30s walked in, clutching a folder of papers against her chest. Are you the owner? She asked. Daniel nodded. Yes. How can I help you? The woman exhaled sharply. My name is Rebecca Sanders. Last year I bought a used car from this dealership, a Ford Explorer. Daniel motioned for her to sit. Go on. The salesman told me I was getting a good deal, that my financing was set up to be affordable. But when I got home and went through the paperwork, I realized they had added fees I never agreed to. Daniel's jaw tightened. I tried calling back, Rebecca went on, but I kept getting the runaround. They told me it was too late to change anything. I ended up paying almost $3,000 more than I expected. Daniel took a breath. I'm sorry that happened to you. Rebecca searched his face. That's not enough. I don't want an apology. I want to know what you're going to do about it. Daniel didn't flinch. Let's pull up your file and see exactly what happened. Rebecca's eyes widened. Just like that. Just like that. As Rebecca sat down, Chris pulled her file. The numbers were all there. Daniel exhaled slowly. They had done exactly what she said. Chris frowned. Sir, this contract was written by Rick. Daniel wasn't surprised. Rebecca crossed her arms. Daniel leaned forward. So we're fixing it. Rebecca blinked. Excuse me. You were overcharged. That's unethical, and I won't allow it. He turned to Chris. I want the additional charges removed. Calculate what she overpaid and issue her a refund. The entire showroom fell into stunned silence that Rebecca's breath hitched. You're serious? Daniel nodded. Completely. Her eyes filled with emotion. I thought I'd never get my money back. Daniel offered a small smile. Today, we changed that. As Rebecca left, her check in hand and gratitude written all over her face, Daniel noticed something. Customers in the showroom had stopped pretending not to listen. Whispers spread like wildfire. Did you see that? He just gave her a refund. I've never seen a dealership do that before. Maybe this place really is different now. Daniel smiled. This wasn't just about one refund. This was about trust. And trust, once earned, could change everything. The next few days felt like a new beginning. With Rick gone, customers were being treated with honesty and fairness. Word was spreading fast. By the time the dealership opened the next morning, there was a line of customers outside. People who had heard the rumors. By lunchtime, calls were pouring in. Chris looked at Daniel. Boss, I think we just started something bigger than we realized. Daniel smiled. That was the goal. But while Reeve Automotive was thriving, someone else was watching. And they weren't happy. By lunchtime, Daniel received a call he didn't expect. Michael Langford, the owner of Langford Motors, a competing dealership. Langford's dealership had been one of Reeve Automotive's biggest rivals for years. Unlike Daniel, Langford didn't build his reputation on quality or fairness. He built it on slick marketing, aggressive sales tactics, and cutthroat pricing. Daniel picked up. Langford, what can I do for you? Langford's voice was smooth but tense. I heard about what you're doing, Reeve. And I'm warning you, buddy, you're setting a dangerous precedent. Langford's tone turned sharp. You start refunding people, giving them fair deals. You think it stops here? This industry doesn't work like that. Daniel smirked. No, it works by taking advantage of people. I'm done with that. Langford chuckled, but there was an edge of frustration. You think you're some kind of hero? News flash, Reeve. This isn't a charity. People don't buy cars because they trust you. They buy from the place that gives them the best deal on paper. Maybe that's how you do business. I don't. Langford sighed dramatically. Fine, be the good guy, but don't expect it to last. Sooner or later, the bottom line will catch up with you. Daniel's jaw clenched. Are you calling to threaten me, Langford? Actually, Langford said, I'm calling to let you know that I'm coming for your customers. If you think I'm just going to let you steal the spotlight, you're dead wrong. The line clicked off. By mid-afternoon, the first signs of Langford's retaliation appeared. Chris rushed into Daniel's office. Sir, we've got a problem. Daniel looked up. What is it? Customers are leaving. Daniel frowned. What? What? Chris exhaled. Langford's undercutting every deal we offer. Sure enough, when he stepped into the showroom, a middle-aged couple was talking to Tim. I appreciate the offer, the man was saying, but we just got a call from Langford Motors. They're offering the same car for $2,000 less. Tim looked frustrated. But we've given you the best deal we can. The man shrugged. We'd love to buy here, but that's a lot of money to pass up. Daniel stepped forward. Sir, can I ask you something? The man nodded. Did Langford tell you how they're making up for that discount? The man blinked. What do you mean? Daniel leaned in slightly. Did they tell you about the hidden fees? The financing tricks? The mandatory warranty add-ons they'll push at the last minute. The man's expression shifted. His wife looked at him. They didn't mention any of that. Daniel nodded. That's because they don't want you to know. They lure you in with a lower price, but when you sit down to sign, suddenly the deal isn't what they promised. Tim pulled something up on his computer. Look here, sir. We've had multiple customers come back to us after Langford tricked them. They thought they were getting a better deal until they saw the final paperwork. The couple exchanged a look. Then the man sighed. We'll stick with you guys. Daniel smiled. That's a smart choice. That night, Daniel gathered his staff. Langford is trying to kill our momentum, and he's using price as a weapon. Chris frowned. So what do we do? Drop our prices even lower? Daniel shook his head. No, we don't play dirty. We play smart. He turned to Tim. Pull up a list of every customer who has left a negative review about Langford Motors in the past 2 years. Tim's eyebrows shot up. Why? Daniel smirked. We're going to remind people what Langford really stands for. The next morning, Reeve Automotive launched a campaign. They sent personalized emails and social media messages to former customers who had been cheated by Langford. The message was simple. If you were misled by Langford Motors, bring your paperwork to us. We'll review it for free. No tricks. No hidden fees. Just honesty. Within hours, the first few customers arrived. By midday, there were dozens. By evening, it was a flood. People were furious. Some had been overcharged. Some had been forced into bad financing. Others had been tricked into add-ons they never wanted. Daniel and his team helped each one up. By the end of the week, Langford Motors was feeling the heat. Calls from angry customers poured into his office. Bad reviews skyrocketed. His staff panicked. Then Daniel received another call. It was Langford. And this time, he wasn't laughing. You think you won, Reeve? Langford spat. You're ruining me. Daniel's voice was calm, steady. No, Langford. You ruined yourself. And with that, he hung up. Late that afternoon, the doors of the dealership swung open with force. Michael Langford strode in, flanked by two of his top sales managers. His expensive suit was slightly disheveled, his face tight with frustration. Daniel, standing near the front desk, simply folded his arms. Langford. Langford forced a smirk. Reeve, I figured I'd come congratulate you. Looks like you're enjoying your little victory. Daniel tilted his head. Little victory? You mean restoring honesty to my business? Yeah, I'd say it's a big one. Langford let out a short, humorless laugh. You really think this is sustainable? You've been giving out refunds, canceling fees, and doing all these good guy things. He took a step closer. That's not how dealerships survive. Eventually, your numbers are going to drop, and your people are going to turn on you. Daniel held his gaze. My people are with me because they believe in what we're building. That's why we're winning. Langford's jaw clenched. You don't get it, do you? You embarrassed me. Made a fool of my business. Daniel's eyes darkened. You did that to yourself. Langford's anger flared. You should have stayed in your lane, Reeve. Daniel remained unmoved. Are you threatening me, Langford? A tense silence followed. That evening, just before closing, a crisis hit. Chris ran into Daniel's office, his face pale. Boss, you're not going to believe this. Daniel stood. What happened? Chris handed him his phone. Daniel's eyes narrowed as he read the headlines. Langford Motors exposes Reeve Automotive's refund scam. Michael Langford claims that Reeve Automotive is misleading the public by offering selective refunds to cover past dishonest sales. In an exclusive interview, Langford alleges that the dealership is losing money rapidly and will soon be forced to close. Daniel tightened his grip on the phone. Langford was trying to spin the truth. Chris shook his head. People are already talking about it. Some customers are second-guessing us. They think this whole thing is just a marketing stunt. Daniel set his jaw. Langford had played his final trick. Now it was time to end this. The next morning, Daniel called for a press conference. He stood outside Reeve Automotive, surrounded by reporters, customers, and employees. Good morning. I won't waste your time. I'm here to address the accusations made against my dealership. The crowd hushed. Michael Langford says we're running a refund scam, that we're lying to customers, that we're going to collapse. Daniel paused. Langford is right about one thing. Our business model is different. But it's not a scam. It's called integrity. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Daniel continued. I'm not ashamed to say that yes, we refunded customers who were mistreated. We corrected bad deals. We took responsibility for the past. And we continue to do so. He looked directly into the cameras. Langford Motors wants you to believe that honest business can't survive, that we need to deceive customers to make money. He shook his head. That's a lie, and we're proving it. Chris, Tim, and the other employees stood proudly behind him. Customers in the crowd began clapping. Then something unexpected happened. A man stepped forward. I quit my job at Langford this morning. The crowd turned to him. Everything you said about Langford, it's true. He handed a folder to a reporter. These are records of the hidden fees they charged customers, the fake discounts, the financing scams. The crowd erupted in gasps. Daniel felt a rush of satisfaction. Langford had lost, not just because of Daniel, but because of the truth. That evening, Reeve Automotive was flooded with customers. People who had once doubted the dealership were now lining up to do business. Langford Motors, meanwhile, was in free fall. News outlets ran stories on their fraudulent practices. Customers demanded refunds. Within a month, Langford Motors shut down. A year had passed since the war with Langford. Daniel sat at his desk, looking out at the thriving dealership. Sales were up. Employees were happier than ever. Chris had been promoted to sales manager. Tim was now training new employees in ethical sales. Most importantly, customers trusted them again. Daniel picked up a letter on his desk. It was from Harold and Linda Carter. They had sent him a photo of their son's old car, fully restored. A note was written at the bottom. Thank you for proving that good people still exist in business. Our son would have been proud of you. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had started this journey to fix his business. But in the end, he had built something greater, a legacy of honesty. And that was worth more than any sale.